In the last video, I have explained the necessity of wearing a mask whenever we go out into the public. In this video, I'm going to read you the scientific evidence that support this claim. It is written by Xiu Hong, published on March 27th, 2020. The essay goes like this. The official recommendation in the United States and other Western countries that the public should not wear face masks was motivated by the need to save respirator masks for healthcare workers. There's no scientific support for the statement that masks worn by non-professionals are not effective. In contrary, in view of the stated goal of flatten the curve, any additional, however partial reduction of transmission would be welcome, even by surgical masks or homemade masks, which would not exacerbate the supply problem. The latest biological findings on SARS-CoV-2 viral entry into the human tissue and cough droplets ballistics suggests the major transmission mechanisms are not fine aerosols but large droplets, and thus warrant the wearing of surgical masks by everyone. Okay, instead of going through the whole essay itself, I'm going to just highlight some of the important message, and then we'll explain that to you. Okay, so jumping down a few paragraphs, he wrote, sure, surgical mask and improperly worn N95 respirator masks do not offer perfect protection. But if the stated goal is to flatten the curve, as opposed to eradication of the virus, we have to abandon the black and white thinking and embrace shades of gray. We cannot no longer claim that masks are not effective. We cannot allow the perfect to be the enemy of the good. What if a partial protection afforded by leaky surgical or even cell-made masks reduces transmission probability to an extent that is similar to the recommended distancing by more than 6 feet from each other, or not touching your face? It would then double the impact of non-pharmaceutical intervention on flattening the curve. We know that in the Western countries, they recommended a social distancing of approximately 6 feet or 2 meters, and don't touch your face. Unfortunately, touching your face is sometimes not under our own control. We will subconsciously touch our face. Therefore, wearing a mask will help to stop that habit, because your hand will not touch your face when you wear a mask. If you wear a glass as well as a mask, then probably you have already avoided touching your face, because your glass and your masks stop you from touching your face. Okay, so that is another benefit from here. And if the social distancing can help to reduce by, say, 20%, and your face mask by 20%, with the face mask stopping you to touch your face by 20%, you have already a 60% improvement in your own protection. Why not? Of course, we need to be very aware that we are not going to compete with the healthcare workers for the limited resource they can afford to have. Okay, so we are not going to buy N95 masks in competition of the healthcare workers, because N95 masks do need to wear properly, and most of us will not be able to do that. So let that professional mask be available to our healthcare workers. We go for the surgical mask. Okay, going down, we talk about the kind of projectiles coming from our mouth in coughing and in sneezing. So we will look at, first of all, the so-called logic first. The logic is, of course, no mask beneath the tight-fitting N95 respirators, which provide any perfect protection. Even the N95 doesn't, okay? But imperfect protection does not mean completely useless, such as a glass not full need not be empty. I would gladly accept a glass of water filled to 60% when I'm thirsty. So absence of evidence is not evidence of absence. We shouldn't, in this binary world, we should look at the intermediate possibilities. So if a mask can save up to 60%, then it's better than 100%. So we would recommend using the mask. Now the mechanics. When we squeeze, when we sneeze or cough, or even when we're breathing and talking, fine droplets are coming out from our mouth. Okay? There are two types of droplets. Droplets which are very small, which will float in the air. They are typically of a size smaller than 10 microns. For other droplets, which is larger, it will fly out like a projectile. The projectile depends on the force you send it out. So when you are sneezing, it is sent out with very high speed, and it will reach a much longer distance. From what we know today, the virus itself is mainly attacking mainly attack through large droplets. We will get to that a little bit later on. And therefore, we should be looking at a minimum protection to stop it from getting into our body. How do we know that the main attack is come from large droplets? Okay, so here comes the biology. It is now known that in order to get a sample from a patient, in order to test for the COVID-19, we use two kinds of swab. One swab is through your nose, getting a little bit of sample from behind your nose, and another is near the throat. Okay. Two kinds of swabs. You use some swab, put it in and take a sample. It has been found that the nose swab gives a better sampling than the throat. Why? Here comes the interesting part. The virus itself is just a package of a genetic material. The package is wrapped by a protein. The protein and the virus itself will not reproduce. It is not a living thing, kind of not living, but it's just a genetic package. When it wants to replicate, it needs the replication mechanism of a living cell, our body. So in order for the virus to be replicated, to reproduce, it needs to enter into our body, enter in the cell of our body. Our cell is also have an outer membrane, outer surface, so they can't go in unless the virus has a key to open up a hole in your cell. That key is a S-type protein. The protein, this particular protein, need to match with a particular lock in order to open up to get the virus into your cell. Once the virus DNA enter into your cell, then it will start using the cell's own mechanism to reproduce. So it will reproduce, eventually so much virus is reproduced that cell bursts. When the cell bursts, the virus scattering around and then will start to enter the other cells, other body cells in order for reproduction. So that is the mechanism. When we breathe in, the aerosols, the very small one, the 10 microns aerosol, will be passing through our nose because it's so small, passing through our nose and then eventually enter into our lungs, and it attack our lung, and then we becomes ill. For the larger particles, it will be blocked by our hair in our nose and the mucus layer at the back of our nose. Okay. This is where the larger particles is being blocked. So when I'm breathing in, larger droplets will be blocked by our hair in the nose as well as the mucus. The fact that we find most of this virus in the mucus rather than in the throat means that the virus probably enter into our system through our nose in large droplets. If it is small droplets, it won't be collected here and will enter directly into our lungs. Yes, eventually it is that small virus which enter into our lungs which cause pneumonia. That's true. But when it first enter into our body, it's probably entering through our body through large droplets, which has been caught by our hair and the mucus layer behind our nose. And therefore, the sample coming from the nose has a higher percentage of getting the virus and producing a positive test. With that knowledge, that means when we have a mask which stops large droplets, it will stop the virus, at least some virus entering into our body, give us some kind of protection. Understand this? And therefore, it is important for everyone, when you go out, wear a face mask. First of all, this face mask with something on your face. When you sneeze, the mask will give some protection so that the projectile is not going far away. Yes, the small particles still go out, but we know that the virus enter through our system is through large droplets, mostly. Therefore, it stops its projectile. The distance it goes through is shorter. So number one. Number two, with your own mask there, it stops the large particle passing through. So you have a better protection. So even if you cannot buy a surgical mask, do wear something around your face when you go out. That will give you protection. And that protection will help our healthcare system to cope with lesser amount of patients. When our healthcare systems can cope, that means we'll get the medical care we need. Otherwise, when the medical system is overwhelmed, the doctors are faced with the very difficult moral questions of choosing which patients to save and let which patient to die. We don't want them to make that very difficult moral choice. And in order to do that, we also don't want our life being compromised by an overwhelmed medical health system. Let's help them by helping ourselves from getting the virus. Please wear a mask. Stay at home as long and as much as possible. If you do need to go out, please wear a mask. Please.